The government's lightning speed electrification scheme has hit a wall. They are now turning a new page with a new strategy that will bring zero emissions and sustainability. They're not just going slower, they're also trying out different things, like focusing more on hybrids and other green tech. But here's the thing, despite the government's new strategy, the electric vehicle market is in such bad shape that strange trends are emerging. What are these trends, you ask? Well, let's find out by looking at 8 things that have never happened before in the EV market. Number 8, market oversupply. Over the years, especially since COVID-19 started, one thing that hasn't changed is the messed up supply chain. Car companies, including those making electric cars, have struggled to make enough cars because there aren't enough semiconductors. At the same time, lots of people were excited to try out electric cars, so there weren't enough of them to meet the demand. Now, here is the twist. As things started to settle in the market, companies began making more cars, but not as many people wanted to buy them. Some reports are saying that there are now 5 times more cars available compared to just a year ago. And because the growth of electric cars is slowing down, it's not surprising that the market is completely out of balance. The market has too many cars, so there are a bunch of electric vehicles sitting unsold at dealerships. Because of this, companies are making fewer electric cars until they sell the ones they already made. It's gotten so bad that most companies selling electric cars are offering big discounts just to sell the cars they have. Tesla was the first one to do this, and then other companies like Ford started doing it too. Ford even gave a huge discount of up to $144,000. Things are really getting out of control. Now, before we continue, if you're enjoying this video, do well to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to show your support. If you've done that, let's continue. Number 7, electric vehicle growth. For many years, EVs have been growing really fast. Each year, they kept growing by at least 90%. People who know a lot about the market believe this trend would keep going into the future. President Biden's team made a plan to speed up how quickly we switch to electric cars. But then, something unexpected happened. After many great years, things started going downhill in the last few months of 2023. The growth of EVs dropped by a lot. So the market only grew by 50% last year. That type of growth is still really cool. Then January came with a 15% year-over-year growth, clearly indicating that EVs are slowing down significantly. It's gotten to a point that even the most hopeful guesses aren't very high. They say that maybe this year's growth could be about 30% at most, but probably it will be less. This shows again that once the people who like trying new things first get their electric cars, regular people who aren't super rich don't find them as appealing. Number 6, Biden's plan has failed. This is likely the first time since electric cars showed up that hardly anyone feels hopeful about switching to them anymore. Not even the government. You might have heard that Biden's team hoped to switch to electric cars fast and easily. The EPA even had a plan to make car emissions rules stricter, so that by 2032, 2/3 of new cars would be electric. But when they saw the electric car sales were almost stopping, they knew they had to change their plan and deal with the new situation. Now, what did they do? The EPA decided to make a new plan. This time, the rules about emissions are not as strict, and they're thinking that by 2032, only about 1/3 of new cars will be electric or partly electric. They're using the word electrified to mean cars that run on electricity or a mix of electricity and gas. Another big thing is that pickup trucks can keep using gas and diesel for a really long time. This shows that electric pickup trucks still aren't as good as the ones that run on gas or diesel. Number 5, dealers are running from EVs. For a long time, dealers were happy because lots of people wanted to buy cars and there weren't enough cars being made. During those times, dealers could sell cars for way more than they cost and make a ton of money. But now things have changed. There are too many cars, especially electric ones, sitting at dealerships, and it's tough to sell them. With all the big discounts, there's no way for dealers to charge extra. One example is the Baxter Auto Group in Nebraska, which has more than 20 dealerships. That dealer only sold 25 Ford F-150 Lightning electric trucks in 2023, even though when they first came out, there were more than 200 orders that people could cancel if they changed their minds. Right now, that dealer has 12 electric trucks sitting at its dealerships. At the rate things are going, it'll probably take about 6 months to sell all of them. Number 4, Ford and GM are near collapse. Companies like Ford and GM are making dealers spend lots of money on things like charging stations and training for their staff so they can sell electric cars. Understandably, most dealers don't want to do this and would rather stick to selling cars that run on gas or diesel. Things get even more interesting. It turns out that Ford and GM are near collapse. They thought they could be as successful as Tesla, so they worked really hard on electric cars. They spent billions of dollars on them in the past few years. But they never quite figured out how to make a profit from electric cars. Only Tesla seems to know the secret. So it's not surprising that both GM and Ford are losing a lot of money on every electric car they sell. In fact, Ford said they lost more than $36,000 on each F-150 Lightning they sold last year. Altogether, they lost over $5 billion. Meanwhile, GM is having such a tough time that they're buying back a bunch of their own shares just to reassure investors. And because electric car sales are slowing down, both GM and Ford had to put off some of their plans to invest in electric cars this year. Ford delayed $12 billion worth of investments and cut production of the F-150 Lightning in half. Meanwhile, GM pushed back the start of production for the all-new electric Silverado to the end of 2025, and they won't even start making new drive units until the end of this year. Number 3, Tesla is having troubles. Tesla is the only company that actually makes money from electric cars. Plus, it sells more electric cars than anyone else in North America, and pretty much everywhere else too. It's also worth more than any other car company in the world, but even Tesla has had some rough months lately. When a big company like Tesla has problems, it shows that there's a big problem with the whole electric car industry. As electric car sales slow down and Tesla faces challenges with new technology, its stock has been falling for some time, which worries investors. Just in the first week of March, the shares dropped by 7.2%, and by the end of the first quarter of 2024, they had fallen by as much as 24%. Things get even more interesting. Recent news reveals that the Cybertruck accelerator pedals are getting stuck. Tesla is now forced to recall every single Cybertruck it's ever made. That's all 3,878 of them. The news comes after a TikTok video surfaced of the pedal getting stuck, as well as Tesla announcing Cybertruck delivery delays on Wednesday. The National Highway and Traffic Safety Administration indicated that a defect can cause the pedal pad to dislodge and get trapped in the Cybertruck's interior trim when high force is applied. So how did this happen? Apparently, soap was introduced to the pads while the Cybertrucks were being manufactured. That's just crazy. This has forced Tesla to issue a recall for every Cybertruck it's made. It's not a crisis yet, but this shows that even Tesla is having a tough time during these challenging times for electric cars. Number 2, electric pickup industry is falling. Given the current market trends, it's clear that electric pickups will take many decades to replace car and diesel-powered ones. Almost every electric pickup maker is seeing a drop in sales. Rivian and its R1T, for example, went down by 14% last year, and then by 43% in January. Ford also reduced production of the F-150 Lightning by half. And as mentioned earlier, GM is delaying mass production of its Silverado and Sierra electric pickups until the end of 2025. The issue with electric pickups is that they're still not as good as traditional ones with internal combustion engines. So, what are the reasons why we should stick with traditional pickup trucks? Mostly because electric pickups have limited range, lower towing capacity, and a higher price. Recent research has shown that battery electric trucks don't perform well under heavy use. Whether it's towing, hauling, or off-roading, their maximum range drops a lot. Tests on the F-150 Lightning found that the range can drop by a third with a decent load. Motor Trend even showed that with a 7,000-pound trailer, the pickup can barely go 90 miles on a full charge. Number 1, EV tech is still underdeveloped. For a long time, people have been talking about electric cars and how fast they can go and all the fancy technology they have. But when you actually drive one, it's not always as amazing as people say. Electric cars still have a lot of problems compared to cars that run on gas. They're not as easy to use, they cost a lot, and sometimes they don't even work right. That's why a recent survey by the Boston Consulting Group found that only 40% of people would consider buying an electric car. Now here's the thing, even among those who are willing to consider buying an electric car, their expectations are pretty high, and most car companies can't meet them yet. They want an electric car that costs around $50,000, can go at least 300 miles on one charge, and can recharge in just 20 minutes. Right now, there's only one electric car on the market that ticks all these boxes. This shows that electric car technology still has a long way to go before it's good enough for everyday people to use. It'll probably be many more years before regular folks start buying electric cars in big numbers. Alright, we've come to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and let us know your thoughts in the comments section. We'll see you in our next video.